The Toronto Blue Jays lose yet another game to the AL East, and that brings their record to 5-10 within the division this year. So we'll break down what happened on this Friday night at the Rogers Center and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And that sweep of the Atlanta Braves just last weekend feels like it was ages ago. And the Jays have now lost 4 out of their last 5 at the Rogers Center against the Yankees and the Orioles. Doesn't get any easier from here on out, but we saw some things in today's game that might help them moving forward if they were to listen and watch our channel. Maybe they'll take a couple of things away from this video, but yeah, it hasn't been a good homestand thus far for the Blue Jays, and something's got to give, Nick.
Yeah, it's been very, very rough, and every team has one of these, streaks,
Mm.
but it's been a couple of them already early for the Blue Jays, so we have to start to step it up. But before we get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I know the Jays, suck, but we're still doing daily content. They suck right now, but we're still doing daily content, so we're 40 subs away from 7,000, so make sure to hit that button. And Peter, the Jays lose another key game, and right now, let's just be honest, they're playing really bad. They're not playing very well at all on kind of all ends, and they're all kind of filing into
Mhm.
each other. The pitching's not performing, but the hitting is even worse, and it's just a rough time to be a Jays fan. However, it's very, very early, and there's still lots of time to recover. But we got to start winning some games because we got to stop with this sweeping and then getting swept thing. We need to have some in between.
Yeah. No, for sure. And let me clarify. I think the Blue Jays are a very good team,
Agreed.
and I think they'll be in the mix once it's all said and
I
done.
agree.
And the way we talk about them, it's like the sky is falling, but they're still 25-20. They still have one of the best records in all of baseball, and there are going to be better days ahead. I don't
100%.
think these players are going to continue to struggle the way that they have thus far, and it just wouldn't make sense if they were to, because you can't go from above average players or very good players in the league to marginally below average. It just doesn't make sense to go from that to that on a year to year basis. So things are going to even themselves out, and the Jays will regress or progress to somewhat of a league average in the sense of their hitting with runners in scoring position and all the other facets of their game. But right now, there's just no margin for error on this team, and for them to win the way that they're hitting, they just got to play a perfect game pitching wise and defense wise, and that's not the strength of this team. As great of the additions as they made in the offseason to their defense and to their pitching, their calling card will and always will be their hitting. So they got to figure that out, and that's the most important thing right now.
Yeah, and let's touch on the offense a little bit, and we will touch on the margin for error here shortly as well. George Springer had a decent game. He obviously got a hit off Cano there, and we gave up. If there's one silver lining, we scored a run off Cano, gave up the first run of the season. Kevin Kiermaier got the first hit against his changeup, but it's not much of a silver lining when you're losing divisional games. Bo Bichette went hitless. Vladdy had okay game, and Chapman continues to struggle in the month of May, like many Blue Jays players, including Dalton Varsho, Whit Merrifield, and players like that. And Danny Jansen continues to hit the ball well, and Kevin Kiermaier is an absolute delight to watch on all ends of the ball this
Yeah.
season. But like you said, the offense has been absolutely quiet, and it's just rough right now. But like you said, the Jays are a good team. They're can be a great team when everything's clicking. It's just stuff's going on right now, and I don't really know what it is, but they need to wake up soon.
Yeah, I think they will wake up eventually. And I saw something that I picked up on late in the game. It was Hector LeBron, the translator of the team. He was talking to Vladdy and made a joke and started laughing. And Vladdy kind of gave him like a little smile, like a grin, and then looked away. You could tell that the players are pissed off. They want nothing to do with this losing streak. They don't want to be joking around. Vladdy stayed in the dugout for a couple minutes after the game was over. He knows he's not playing up to standard. Bo Bichette knows he's not playing up to standard. George Springer will be the first one to tell you he's not playing up to standard, and the list goes on. I could name you 5 players that are starting every day for the Blue Jays that are not happy with the way that they're playing. And like I said, I do think it's going to progress to somewhat of a respectable level, but they got to get back to what makes them good, and that's hitting home runs, that's getting extra base hits, because they're still hitting the ball. They're not coming up with the timely hits, but they're not striking out a ton. They're putting the bat on the ball, but they got to put the ball in the air. They got to get those extra base hits because it's hard to string together base hit after base hit against these nasty pitchers that they're facing night in and night out. And something's got to change. Maybe a switch in the order, maybe putting Danny Jansen in the cleanup spot the way he's been swinging the bat, just switch something up because something's not working right now.
I agree, and hopefully things change. But let's look at what is wrong, and this was quickly touch on it. And you basically covered it there a lot, but it's the offense, and it's like I said earlier, switching between. The hitters are hitting bad, which doesn't have any support for the pitchers, and it's all just a mess right now. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to quickly touch on or about the bigger issue, maybe the bigger picture, but. We touched on this a few videos ago, or about a week ago, when the Jays had that little sweep of the Braves, and you said that they kind of work off of each other. When some players are hitting well, everyone strings together. And right now it's the polar opposite. Dalton Varsho can't buy a hit, and
Right.
it's looking bad when the hitters aren't hitting well. No one seems to hit well.
Yeah, and the one thing I noticed is that early on in the year, I think it took them 5 games to hit a home run as a team, or
Something like
four
that. Yeah.
games, something like that. And but they were scoring a lot of runs in the early going. They were manufacturing runs, and that first game against St. Louis, it was just hit after hit after hit, going the other way, running the bases well. But that's not what this team is supposed to be doing. They're supposed to hit extra base hits. They're supposed to hit the long ball, and they only have one less home run than they did at this point of the season last year, which is not that big of a deal, but they started off really slowly last season as well. So I do think it'll progress to a respectable level, but they just got to know what makes them successful. Stop trying to go the other way. Stop trying to be a slap hitter when you're in the middle of that order. Just hit the ball out of the ballpark. I know it's easier said than done against these filthy pitchers, but that's what their calling card is, and they got to get back to that somehow.
Yeah, I agree. And let's touch on the pitching now before we wrap up, which kind of has, like we spoke on, no margin for error. But, Yusei Kikuchi, he battled, and Ben Nicholson-Smith was talking on it was an Apple TV broadcast. We didn't mention that yet. But Apple TV allows radio now for the Blue Jays, which is great. But he was basically talking about how if Yusei Kikuchi, even when he does not have his A-plus stuff, and he had probably the worst start of the season today, or at least the worst command for sure, and he still managed to give us, a fairly respectable-ish start. And a game where, kind of want the offense to back Kikuchi up because he has been so good this year. He ended up going 4 2/3, giving up 3 runs and walked 4. What did you see out of him that was either good or concerning, depending what you want to go off of here? He obviously walked by far the most of the season, but like we said,
Yeah.
no margin for error. The offense didn't help him or give him support at all, which ultimately didn't matter because Swanson gave up a 2-run bomb, but still.
I wouldn't say concerning, just he wasn't sharp tonight. He wasn't good at all, and he still managed to get through 4 2/3. He gave up that big home run to Ryan Mountcastle, and the command just wasn't there. That it was the story of the night for Yusei Kikuchi, but 3 runs from your fifth starter is not the end of the world, and especially against a starter like Kyle Gibson, you got to be able to scratch a couple of runs together. And it started off well early on. Danny Jansen pushed that run to give them the 1 run lead, and it just went downhill from there. I think he retired with 16 or 17 straight hitters, and that's just not going to get it done. You have second and third with no outs, and you
Score
only
one.
get 1 run across. It's like you just got to hit better. You got to execute better, and it's easier said than done. We've never gotten a hit in the major leagues. We don't know what it's like to step into that batter's box, but these guys are getting paid millions of dollars, and they have a track record of being successful as hitters. So they gotta figure out a way, and maybe a players meeting, maybe just something to light a fire under these guys because they don't look like they're clicking right now, and there seems to be a bit of a disconnect between the coaching staff and the players as well. That at least that's what I notice.
Yeah, it's not working, and no clutch gene whatsoever. But touch on the bullpen. Trevor
Mhm.
Richards does what he does, which is give the best couple innings he can. He obviously gave up a run, but it is what it is. Tim Mayza continues to be great, and Eric Swanson unfortunately gave up the 2-run home run. And Thomas Hatch came in, which it's a bad time if you're a Jays fan when he's coming in at this point of the season. And Peter, you touched on that, but yeah, an overall game we'll hopefully forget, and we got to bounce back tomorrow. Looking ahead, we have of course Alek Manoah going to the hill tomorrow, which. That used to be something we'd say and be confident, but these days you never really know with him. So it's going to be an interesting game to watch. It is an afternoon game, so hopefully he'll be able to perform well because we really, really need a win right now. against the AL East opponent. But we will have a live stream for you tomorrow. We'll both be there, so hopefully you can tune into that. And anything you want to say before we wrap up?
I guess the one silver lining that we could take away from this game is that the Jays made Felix Bautista throw 25 pitches in that final ninth inning, and I bet you the Orioles wish they didn't have to use him tonight. So by all indications, he might be unavailable tomorrow. And they roughed up Yanir Cano for the first time, and no other team could say that so far this season. So hopefully tomorrow's a better day, and hopefully we're talking about a win tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, hopefully, and hopefully we'll see you there for the live stream. But thank you guys for watching. See you then.